Vol Nation? Happy Sunday. And to start off this episode, we're going to start talking about the AP poll and where everybody's at and who jumped to and where everybody slid after their losses. And to start off with everybody, the team that we love and we cherish, the Tennessee Volunteers. They moved up to number 7 after beating ranked 24 NC State and manhandling them in the Duke's Mayo Classic in NC State's own state, North Carolina, and manhandling them 51-10. What an immaculate win that was for the Vols. Michigan and Notre Dame slide in their losses, and they slid pretty far down. I can't remember what they slid down to. I know the AP poll just dropped, but I didn't list it down. And the SEC grabbed 6 out of the top 7 spots, this being the first in the 88-year span of the poll. Now, getting down to the game, and my reaction, Nico once again was on point. Yes, I know y'all are probably aware that he did throw a couple of interceptions. That was bound to happen, guys. He's a freshman. How else is he supposed to learn without throwing interceptions? Other than that, he did awesome. He was 16 of 23 for completions, 211 yards, average of 9.2 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. That first interception, was it was a little out of Bruce's reach, but how else are you going to learn without making mistakes? Like, that's the biggest mistake you can learn without afraid of making mistakes. That's what I'll say. Dylan Sampson had a great night while accumulating 20 carries, 132 yards, 6.6 average yards, 2 touchdowns, and his longest rush was 32 yards. The receiving core for Tennessee last night racked up as a team 16 receptions, 211 yards, 13.2 yards as an average, 2 touchdowns, and the longest catch for the receiving core was 45 yards. Now, Kevin, at the beginning of the game, I know our defense today didn't really struggle, but we didn't win the first down plays. They threw it to Kevin Concepcion a few times, which is their stud receiver that they have. Threw a little comeback route to Kevin Concepcion, and then after that, in their first drive, after we stopped them, it was like, oh, is he even on the team anymore? But I believe that our defensive line is basically their studs. I want to say towards the end of the first half, whenever they had the ball the third time, they ended up having negative 13 for rushing because our defensive line was just on point. Other than that, let's get into the other games that happened over the weekend. A dramatic week 2, and it's only week 2 of the 2024 college football season. Northern Illinois upsets Notre Dame in South Bend. Northern Illinois is getting paid $1.4 million to visit South Bend to play Notre Dame. Ends up getting upset by NIU on a blocked 63-yard field goal, I believe. That's how far it was. And I would watch the end of that game. I was like, what? There ain't no way. But I know they slid pretty far down the rankings, but pretty insane game. Another game. Texas goes into Ann Arbor, the big house, which I know we covered this and we talked about what might happen. If it might be a bar fight, it might be a close game. I know everybody was talking about this last week, and probably going to be one of the biggest games of this season. Talking about, who's going to make the playoffs, and that's probably going to matter. But Texas blows out Michigan, ends up winning 12-31. I think that was the score. Alabama's early struggles continue into week 2 against South Florida. Their offensive line was terrible. Jalen Mayo cannot make decisions whenever he's running, whether he wants to run the ball or pass the ball, which honestly, he reminds me of Joe Milton whenever he played for Tennessee. He didn't decide if he wanted to run the ball, pass the ball. Joe Milton, honestly, he could probably truck a guy if he wanted to. I know he trucked that Alabama player last year whenever we played him. But overall, these are some pretty good games. mention Eric. So I know I mentioned in my last episode that I'm going to talk about Mike Norvell and if he's done at Florida State or not. Now, Florida State, they got work to do. They got a lot of work to do. Now, but how much work does Norvell need to do to keep his job in Tallahassee? Luckily, last week FSU had a bye, but they do play Memphis at home this coming weekend. Hopefully, everything was settled over the weekend and FSU performs like they think they're going to make the playoffs. But if the Noles don't end up getting the dub, he might be in the same boat as Sunbelt Billy, because we all know that Sunbelt Billy is going to be gone after this year. Even though we all know that they have this toughest schedule in CFP this year. And I know we went over the schedule last episode. Some notable games: they have A&M this week. They have Texas, Tennessee. I think Georgia's on their schedule this week. I know I started posting shorts last week, but that's going to be like kind of like a way to grow my channel a little bit. But that's all I got, and hope y'all are have a good weekend, and go Vols.